Let's now continue with the genitive, but I have forgotten that there was some exercises at the top of page 200 and 250 that we needed to correct as well on the causative. So I'll quickly have a look at those with you. You have an ingrowing toenail. What should you do? I should have it removed by a surgeon. You have a skin rash on the back of your knees. What should you do? I should have it treated by a dermatologist. You sprained your ankle. Dat betekent je hebt je enkel verstuikt. You made an appointment at the hospital for 3 o'clock tomorrow. Why? I'm having my ankle x-rayed at the hospital tomorrow at 3. I'm having in the present continuous because you're talking about a future arrangement. Your right lower molar hurts. You've made an appointment at the dentist. I'm having a molar extracted next week. Also a future arrangement. Iets in de toekomst dat je al geregeld hebt. Daarvoor gebruiken we de present continuous met een indicatie van de toekomst. Okay, the genitive then. As you can see on page 250 you have this blue grid here which sort of summarizes how we form the genitive in English. The genitive is basically the possessive S form, which we can add to certain words. For example, my father's car, de auto van mijn vader. We don't usually use that structure in English, the car of my father. It's something we don't really use a lot in English. And the people who do use this are usually not native speakers. Native speakers will not use that of structure very frequently, but a typical possessive S structure. Now, however, using that structure may cause some spelling issues, and that's what we're going to focus on right now. The grid which you see here may be a little bit confusing, and that is why in our grammar guide on page 19 we have a much clearer overview of the spelling rules, and I'm going to skip to that. If you have your grammar guide at home, I would advise you to take that next to you for the next exercises. If you can't find it, if you don't have it, just stick to the blue grid then. But if you do have it, it's a lot more useful in this case. So I'm just going to quickly skip to the grammar guide here. Okay, let's have a look. Singular and plural nouns not ending in an S take apostrophe S. Apostrophe betekent weg laten steken. Clive's pen, the children's presents. So in English, it doesn't really matter whether your noun, Clive, or the children, is singular or plural. All you have to do when you want to know how to spell the genitive is look at whether or not the word ends in an S. Clive and the children do not end in an S, so we add apostrophe S. We have a plural noun that ends in an S, you only add an apostrophe. For example, the twins' birthday or my parents' friends. When you have a name, for example, usually a classical or a biblical name that ends in an S, we usually only add an apostrophe, like for example, Jesus Cross. But this is where it gets a little tricky. Some names can either end in just an apostrophe or an apostrophe S. Charles's parents, in this case, both spellings are correct, either with just an apostrophe or with apostrophe S. So that's what makes it a little tricky. Okay, a few remarks. When there are two names, only the second one gets the genitive form. For example, Janet and Gary's children. You do not say Janet's and Gary's children. You simply say Janet and Gary's children. In Dutch, the spelling depends on the last letter of the noun, but not in English. I would, however, advise you not to think too much about Dutch, because this will only create confusion in your head. So skip this part and just stick to the rules in English. Pronunciation, nothing special to remark there. With people, we use the genitive, which is also called the Saxon genitive, by the way, to express a form of possession. My father's car. So we do not say the car of my father, but we say my father's car. It can also indicate places such as shops, churches, and even somebody's house. For example, who will go to the butcher's? Why is that butcher apostrophe S? Because it actually stands for the butcher, his shop, the butcher's. The service is at St. Paul's. That is the short form for St. Paul's or St. Paul, his cathedral, St. Paul's. We are staying at my uncle's is the short form for my uncle's house. The genitive is also used with periods of time, and this may be something that you're not aware of all the time. For example, in 2 months' time, we do add an apostrophe there. Yesterday's news is spelled like this. We have to keep that in mind. Let's look at the next page. I have a few more remarks there. The genitive is also used to replace a noun instead of repeating it. For example, my motorbike is faster than Peter's. And final remark here, the genitive is also used with geographical names and names of institutions, but in those cases we can also use the of or in structure. For example, Africa's future or the future of Africa. In those cases we can use both structures. London's history, the history of London. The world's highest building, the highest building in the world. Eton's fame, the fame of Eton. Okay, I'm going to skip the note here. There is a difference in meaning between the genitive structure and the of structure. This is a rather complex item, which we're not going to focus on right now. Let's go back to our workbook then. And what is it that you need to do in exercise 9.7? You have to rephrase what is written here using a genitive form. So what you do now is you pause the video, you fill it in, and once you have finished, you press play, and then we're going to correct it together. Okay, let's have a look at the correction then. The looks of Courtney Cox's looks. Apostrophe S, Cox ends in an X, but an X is not an S, so we just add apostrophe S. Her friend's apartment, friends, does end in an S, so simply apostrophe. Cameron Diaz's facelift, a Z is not an S, so apostrophe S. Gangster's Paradise, merely an apostrophe. My Baby's Eyes, Men's Magazine, A Woman's Word. Hans's House, 2 possible spellings here, both are grammatically correct. And the last one, Children's Television. Once you have corrected these exercises, you go to Smart School once again, and you do the exercises on the genitive, which you will find on the left-hand side under exercises. If you can't find them, just click on the link under course news. And as I already told you earlier, make sure that you fill in everything and make sure that you have all the correct answers at the end of the exercise, because that way you will get a result which you will need at the end of the exercise. Okay, so good luck with that. And once you've done those exercises, you're finished for today.